Hello. So, today I want to talk about the criminal justice system in Canada. I don't know too much about it. Um, I probably know very little about it, honestly. But yeah, I just wanted to know what y'all think about the system. If you think it needs changing, if you don't, if you think it does, what you think it needs to change to, or if you don't know, but you just think it needs to be changed, whatever. So, I'm assuming everybody knows the Bernardo, Karla Homolka case. It's at least 25 years old. I'm not sure the exact date, but at least 25 years old. Karla is now living in Quebec somewhere, I think Montreal, I'm not sure. Paul is still in jail. He was in the Kingston Penitentiary. Then he got shipped out. Now when it closed, obviously. Yeah, that's just one case. If you don't know what the case is about, it's essentially, long story short, Paul and Karla were in a relationship at one point, and they kidnapped and raped and then killed and dismembered their victims' bodies. And they're all girls, all teenage girls. One being Karla's sister. She would give them to Paul as gifts. So they would together or separately rape each victim, beat them, kill them eventually, and then cut up their bodies, dismember them, and get rid of them. Kind of actually like the Luka Magnotta case, and I don't want to give him more recognition. He killed Jun Lin. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it properly, but we'll call it the Jun Lin case, I suppose. He killed him, obviously. Previous to that, he suffocated 2 or 3 kittens and a puppy. Online, it was a, what do you call it? It was fun for him. So then he moved to humans, which is where Jun Lin came in. He was under the impression that they were, having fun. And then when that was done, he killed him and dismembered him and got rid of the body, the parts of the bodies, because he was dismembered. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard of that case though. I believe he's still in prison, I'm not sure. But, yeah. So, Paul is still in jail. I'm not totally sure where, but he is in jail. I think Luka is, I'm not sure. My whole point, though, is why are these people in prison taking our tax dollars and, frankly, manpower to keep in prison, keep alive, essentially, and safe? Why don't we just get rid of them? And I don't mean we as in everyday people, obviously. I mean we as in the system, the justice criminal system, why is there not a death sentence in Canada? And there's not. I don't remember, I should look that up. I don't remember when it got abolished, but it did a while ago. Yeah. I just find that puzzling. Just a personal opinion. I don't know why offenders like that are kept alive in prisons. They repeatedly show no remorse. Yeah. So, I mean, even if they did show remorse, they killed people. Even if they just killed one person, you took a life. I don't know why Canada is so afraid to an eye for an eye, you know? It just... And I mean, some people, some criminals don't want to die, or, yeah, they don't want to die, so that would be a punishment, obviously, is the death sentence. But some do, and that kind of sucks, because you're essentially giving them one last win, because they'd rather die than serve a sentence. But at the same time, that's manpower and money to keep them alive and safe. So when do you draw the line? Because I don't really think any part of Canada's criminal justice system is working. I don't think a lot of Canada's overall governmental systems at all is working. But the criminal justice system is, in my opinion, definitely lacking. Doesn't make sense how it's operating right now. Unrelated to Canada, because it happened in California, I believe. What was his name? Gabriel Fernandez. I don't know if any of you know that case, but he was an 8-year-old boy who was beaten very badly by his mother and his stepfather. His skull was beaten in so badly that, like, his skull was dented. He had bruise marks all over his body. Some were healed, some were healing, some are brand new. He had cigarette burns all over. Strangulation marks. Marks on, like, his wrists and whatnot for, like, being tied. He'd be kept in a container, like, a cabinet, maybe about, like, you know, that big. And he'd be, like, put in it and his hands tied, like, and then he'd have a sock put in his mouth. And he would just stay like that all night. He'd be put there and stay like that all night. And it would be locked, the cabinet thing. And sometimes all day too. He had a brother and a sister, and they witnessed all of it. I mean, they couldn't help him because they had no access to get him out. But they tried to stop occasionally, stop it from happening. But they didn't have any pull, so. He eventually died because his stepfather got angry that Gabriel confronted his mother and basically asked him to leave the stepfather because he was the root of the problem. That's not to say that his mother didn't beat him, because she 100% did, but the stepfather was a big problem. So Gabriel approached the mother privately and confronted her about it and asked her to leave him. And then the stepfather found out because the mother said to Gabriel in front of the stepfather, "Tell him what you told me." So he didn't want to, so the mother did. And then the stepfather got very mad and beat him to death. So that was a huge case. Like I said, I believe it was in California. The mother was sentenced to life in prison without parole, and the stepfather was sentenced to, what do you call it, death? He got a death sentence. Which I agree with. I definitely think the mother should have got it too. They went too easy on her. But it is good that the stepfather, got that too, that sentence. My point to bring this up, though, is why doesn't Canada have this? Nowhere in Canada, not any province or territory, has this law. Why? Like, a serial killer kills 10 people, and we don't have any law that says they should be sentenced to death. They're just going to spend the rest of their life in prison, with or without parole. It doesn't make any sense to me. And, depending on how each circumstance goes, some killers get out fairly quickly, and some even walk altogether. And then they're allowed to reoffend? What's that all about? That's why I say our systems are broken. So, yeah, I'm curious to see what everyone thinks about that situation. If you think the way our systems operate is good, if it needs improvement, maybe what those improvements might be. I'm curious. Let me know.